Okay. I'm sitting here waiting on my base coats to dry, so I think I'll tell a story. I'm going to tell Cuttin Off Corn, because I got some good old fresh corn that I cut off myself in there in the microwave. That's going to be good. Nobody here but me and my pet family. There's Lucy Bell and Callie right there. Hey, girls. The sun was still sleeping when Bubba arose. The smell of hot biscuits awakened my nose. This sultry June morning would open her arms to neighbors and kinfolk on Fat Daddy's farm. I rose from my slumber and headed outdoors as Bubba completed her last morning chores. The ground was a blanket of fresh fallen dew. The sky in the holler was waking up blue. The old rooster crowed his third morning alarm, and Bubba sang gospel as she marched from the barn. I ran out to meet her in calloused bare feet. The bees danced on blossoms. The air smelled so sweet. We both rushed inside to collect some dishpans, then out to the smokehouse with 4 loaded hands. Her knives and buckets and lawn chairs were ready. Now we would wait for the corn and Fat Daddy. A few moments passed and we heard the putt-putt of my dear old Fat Daddy's red pickup truck. The ears had been pulled and the burlap was filled with bushels of corn from a neighbor's cornfield. Fat Daddy's old Chevy was leading a band of neighbors and kin who were lending a hand. And when that procession of pickups came to a halt, my uncles unloaded the corn they had brought. They all carried dishpans and knives and lawn chairs, and Bubba's best buddy, Miss Larvell, was there. Some aunts and some cousins spilled out of those trucks, and I was so tickled that Ricky showed up. Everyone was wearing a big country smile, and their greetings and chatter were heard for a mile. They were eager to start this beautiful morn a-shucking and silking and cutting off corn. Hundreds of fresh ears were poured out of the sacks, and the fragrance was sweet as we peeled the shucks back. And my cousins and I were often surprised by a chubby green creature feasting inside. Shucking was fun, and that silking was steady. A good wash of them ears, and then they were ready. A small circle was formed by some ladies with pans, and each one had a knife and an ear in her hands. Then Ricky Glenn and I sat down on the ground and played with the corn shucks and the creatures we'd found. The ladies were set on completing the job of cutting them kernels right off of the cob. We lingered close by and listened to chatter of things that were right and what was the matter. They talked about days from before I was born, while shucking and silking and cutting off corn. I remember my aunt recalled that she played with dolls made of corn shucks back in the old days. She said that the silks made excellent tresses, and the corn shucks, of course, served as dresses. They shared the latest as the cutting sustained, and right in amongst them me and Ricky remained. As they cut off the kernels into the pans, white liquid would splash on their faces and hands. It didn't take long for the flies to descend on speckles and splatters on family and friends. Though flies were a nuisance and the task a mess, this day on the farm was one I liked best. Surrounded by children and chickens and flies, they gossiped and laughed under blue country skies. A wonderful memory I hold of that morn. shucking and silking and cutting off corn. But that's all, folks.